people are doing exam season at the moment, so it's quite a busy time. And these webinars are quite good to kind of dip in and out of if you're having a study break and just want to kind of have a bit of a break from doing the studies and look at something relating to careers for the future. So the webinar is called What Can You Do with CareerEDGE? And to go to CareerEDGE, it's www.uclan.ac.uk/CareerEDGE, and you would click student and staff, and then you would just basically go in. You might have to sign in sometimes, depending on what kind of browser you're on, or what kind of, if you're on a phone or something like that. But you guys have already been in already because you booked onto the webinar, so you've already been into CareerEDGE at least once. So I'm going to kind of share my screen, and I'm going to just talk about kind of the general things that you can do in CareerEDGE, just in case there's things that you don't know about yet that you maybe haven't explored. So I'm going to go to share, and I'm going to share my screen. Share there. Right. You should be able to see the CareerEDGE homepage now. And this is what you would get if you were logging into CareerEDGE for the first time. When you booked on, you might have actually gone straight to the bookings area, but if you go via that link that I mentioned right at the beginning, this is where you would come. And it's quite a nice system. It's quite a nice visually attractive system. And first of all, you kind of see these kind of advertisements for things that we're doing at the moment. And that's a very useful place to start sometimes, because they are kind of quite key things, that we're wanting to kind of help you with and promote to you. At the moment, we've got a page that kind of talks about, what online support's available. So if you click there, you'll find out about what support we're offering whilst we're on the lockdown. We've got a page all about temporary jobs and volunteering if you're interested in kind of or needing that kind of work at the moment. There's all sorts of particular vacancies that are useful for students at this time. And there's also our thing about webinars, which you know about. There's a booking page for that. And keep looking back at that, because we're going to try and run at least one webinar a day, Monday to Friday. And we're going to be doing that for the next few months potentially. Maybe even over summer. So keep looking back, because you might find webinars that you can fit into your schedule that are interesting to you. On the main interface here, there's some latest jobs that appear, and they can be quite useful as a quick way of getting to jobs. A quick way of getting to latest news articles in the middle, and also as well your progress on the right kind of tells you kind of like how many activities you've done within the system. There's also this quick job search here where you can kind of just quickly get at particular jobs that maybe you're interested in, especially you can kind of pick a location and then just search and you get those jobs coming up. But first of all, I'm going to talk about the kind of things that are on this top bar here, because these are the kind of things that you can kind of do within CareerEDGE. The first thing is, you've probably noticed when you come into CareerEDGE for the first time, at the moment, you get like a survey pops up called Career Pulse that kind of, if you fill it in, it helps you to determine how good you are in terms of your career development so far. And when you get to the end of that, it actually gives you a report that kind of shows you where you think you are strong or weak at in various areas. So if it doesn't come up, and it's going to stop coming up in a little while for students, but you can come to take Career Pulse, and then the pulse would come up, and you can start it, and you can basically answer these questions. And at the end, you'll get this report that's going to come up on the screen now, and it shows you where you're kind of strong or weak at. So are you strong at job hunting? Are you weak at well-being? Are you strong at CVs? And if there's some strengths or weaknesses there, you can kind of click through to these areas, and you can go to kind of learning programs that will kind of help you to kind of develop your skills on those particular areas, which is quite nice. There's also the Employability Skills Award, and that's what the report is linking at. The report is linking into this big award, and there's lots of kind of things here if you want to learn anything about the recruitment process, or how to get a job, how to go from understanding what you need, what skills you need, what kind of jobs you could do, how to hunt for jobs, how to apply for jobs, how to do interviews well, and how to actually look after yourself at work, how to actually be stress-free, or kind of understand how you can sort of make a transition to work well for you. So those are the kind of things on the Employability Skills Award, and this all ties together, and that's why it's all together. It's like a diagnostic. You get a report, and then you can actually do some learning, and that can actually be quite useful. If you're in year 0 or year 1, your career pulse will be slightly different, but it still links out learning outcomes for you as well in your own kind of award. Now, the popular tools area, this is the biggest kind of part of CareerEDGE. So you've got something called CV Builder. Now, if you go to that, if you haven't got a CV already, this system will kind of basically take you through building your own CV, and it kind of has different sections where you can fill in information, and at the end you can actually download the CV that you've made. So if you've got no CV at all, that's a good place to go. If you want CV review, you can click on there, and that'll actually take you to the end of the CV Builder process. And what you can do is that you can actually click on review CV, and you can actually send the CV to an employer. So that, not employer, send the CV to the careers advisor. The careers advisor can actually review your CV online and give you feedback. So that's a useful place to go. There's also CV 360. This is a place where you can actually submit your current CV and get it analysed by the system. And it checks the CV against 50 different criteria, or in fact 58 different criteria I'm just seeing here. And it kind of helps you to kind of understand kind of what you were good at and what you were not good at in relation to particular CV. So it comes up on screen here and gives you a score. And if you look at the feedback, it's got a really in-depth report that kind of goes into all of the different aspects of the CV, you know, from how to name the file, what the structure of the CV should be, how you should present it, with videos as well that show you how to do things. It's so comprehensive and really, really useful to kind of get to basically keep submitting the CV and keep trying to get your score up. And that's what people do. We see them come on, and they start off at about 60 or something, and they keep on submitting it until they get up to 80 or whenever they feel comfortable that the CV is really good. And also down the bottom, you can actually submit the CV for review here as well from one of our careers advisors. And you can leave the careers advisor a message as well for anything you want them to look at particularly. You can do 10 reviews. And you've got to score over 60 on the CV review to submit it, but you don't have to if you're going through the CV review that we saw earlier. So it's quite comprehensive. It's quite good in the sense that, you know, you can build a CV from scratch, you can get it reviewed by an advisor, get it reviewed by the computer, and also get it reviewed by the advisor. So, you know, it's really, really useful to kind of use some of that functionality, because the CV is still very important. You know, CV is something that, you know, is still one of the big tools that people use to get jobs, especially if you're sending your CV speculatively by post or by email to an employer just to see if they would be interested in you. The CV's got to be good. And so we've got all of these tools and offers from the careers advisors to make sure that's the case. There's also Career eLearning, and in here there's a giant amount of stuff you can pop into, do lots of little kind of learning on various things, and it goes from your skills, the kind of things you could do in your job in the future, insights into businesses and the industry you might work in, job searching, CVs, interviews, career management, working in a new job for the first time, skills within your workplace, how to be a manager or leader, how to cope with challenges in the workplace, even kind of things like, you know, basic business skills. There's lots of things in here, and basic IT skills as well. There's lots of information in here. So there's so many things, and a lot of them are video based, a lot of them are text based, some of them are audio recordings, podcast type things. So it's worth exploring. It's kind of like, you know, have a look in here, and they're all organised really easily, so you can kind of find what you're looking for reasonably quickly. And all the latest ones that have been put in are up here. So it's certainly worth a look. It's certainly a good place to go. Then the cover letter builder. This kind of shows you kind of how to go about kind of building a cover letter. Now, the cover letter could also be nowadays also a cover email, and that kind of is how you introduce your CV to an employer. So if you send your CV to an employer speculatively, or even as part of an application, sometimes employers ask you to send your CV and cover letter by email to them rather than actually doing an online application form. It basically gives you some good tips. If you work through the CV builder, cover letter builder, it gives you some good tips on how to introduce your CV to the employer and make a first good impression. So they definitely open the CV and they definitely read the CV. So the next thing is interview simulator. Now, this is where you can go to kind of practice various interview questions. So if you've got an interview coming up, you might want to go to Browse Questions here. And you can basically get lots of different questions you might get asked at interview. So questions that you might get asked at the beginning of the interview, questions you might get asked at the end of the interview, and also other questions as well, like role-specific questions or about your work history, about competency-based questions, about yourself. And also as well, you've got this kind of area here where you can kind of customize the questions for yourself to watch back. And you can also record yourself answering the questions to kind of see how you come across to the employer. And as you go along as well, there's lots of different videos that pop up from the employer, giving you ideas about how the employer is expecting you to answer the question. So it is a very useful thing, Interview Simulator. Also must say that Career Service offers a mock interview online option. So if you're going for an interview very soon and you want the careers advisors to pretend to be your employer and pretend to ask you some questions, you can send them through the job description and personal specification of the role, and they'll create some questions for you about the kind of questions they think you might be asked. It's not possible, of course, to come up with the questions that are going to be asked, but they can come up with kind of things that you might be asked. The FAME database is a useful place to go. Because you can research companies in the UK and Ireland, and you can find out lots about these companies. And certainly for CVs, certainly for application forms, and certainly for interviews, researching the company you want to work for is a really good idea, because it comes across to the employer that you understand their company. So, and that's really important, especially in an interview. And many other parts of the recruitment process, that you're demonstrating that you really want to work for them. You don't just want the money, you want to work for them, and how you can actually help them to achieve their goals. And a lot of it comes from understanding the company there. Assessment Centre, there's a tool in here for helping you to understand the kind of things that you might be having to experience at Assessment Centre. Generally, really big companies are the companies that use assessment centres, really, because they have a lot of candidates and they want to whittle it down. If you've ever watched The Apprentice with Alan Sugar on TV, it's kind of like that, in a sense that they have sort of tasks that you have to do as a group often, and you have to kind of evidence to the employer that they can see you being a team player, can they see you being a leader, all sorts of things. So there's lots and lots of examples here of the kind of things you would experience at an assessment centre, and you can have a go with these as well, which is very useful to practice ahead of them. So assessment centres can be quite challenging for people, because you kind of used to having an interview where you might sit in front of 2 or 3 people, or maybe 10 people or 20 people. I had an interview with 20 people in the past, and it was really quite scary. But generally it's 2 or 3 people at an interview, and you know what to expect. But with an assessment centre, less people have done them, so it's useful to find out about them if you actually get asked to do something like that. Aptitude tests. Now, these are very useful, because when you go for an interview, sometimes the interviewer surprises you and says, okay, I want to test your math skills, or I want to test your English skills, or I want to test your reasoning skills, or critical thinking skills, or logic skills. And these are kind of very useful tests to practice before you go to an interview. Often they do tell you that they're going to do them, but sometimes they might spring them on you. And it was quite a nice idea to actually practice these tests, because you go in thinking you're going to have an interview and suddenly you're being tested on something, and it can actually be quite overfacing if you've not practiced these, and there's plenty of tests to practice here. Elevator pitch. This is where you can kind of create a 60-second thing you can say to an employer to really kind of sell yourself. So it might be your opening statement when you first go to an interview, when you're saying about yourself. You could use this elevator pitch to, in 60 seconds, really encompass everything about yourself and how you could be a really good person to be employed by that employer. That's quite a good activity to do. There's an intelligent career quiz and a career planner here, and you can investigate those things for yourself. But they're not really big tools. Job research. If you go to job research and searching for jobs, you can basically kind of find out if there's various ways you can do job searching in the system. So this Careers Jobs portal here, you can click into that, and then this is the job portal where we've got employers listing vacancies for you to have a look at. And if I go to that one there, and you can see when we go in, there are vacancies in here, and if I search for vacancies today, there are 209 vacancies. And sometimes that can be as much as 500 or 600 in busy times. In this Jobs at CareerEDGE one, there's a much more detailed search, and it's taking job search from across the internet from a company called Indeed that you may have heard of, and we're going to be putting our vacancies into here as well, and lots of vacancies come in, and you've got like this advanced search here, and you can put keywords and locations and salaries and company types and what kind of sectors you want and what kind of job types you want and when you want the vacancies to be in and what kind of distance. And so it's kind of really good, and you can actually put some job preface up here as well if you want to fine tune some searching. And if you put some kind of a job search in and do a job search, you're going to get quite a lot of jobs potentially coming in. I've only got one here, but sometimes depending on the searches you put in, you can have a lot of different kind of things coming in if it's a really, really popular job. So have a play with that. It's one of the most popular parts of the system, doing job searching. And students coming onto here quite a lot. There's also down the bottom a global jobs portal. You can sign up to that. You can work with a company called Hired, and all of these jobs are from jobs that are all around the world. So if you've got a desire to work in anywhere else in the world other than UK, there's so many jobs on there, and they're from really big employers. So that's worth a look if you're really wanting to go down an exclusive job kind of route. Prospects as well. That also has usually about 400 jobs on there that are very, very good for students. And it's worthwhile looking at other things like job profiles and career planning in Prospects, and job matching as well, because they're very, very useful tools. So it's something to bear in mind. You can also go to our volunteering page, and we've got some places you can go for volunteering, and that can look really good on the CV if you want to develop your CV a bit. You won't get paid for volunteering generally, but it's kind of employers quite like to see a well-rounded person. So if you have got time for volunteering, that can look quite good on the CV. Career pathways, there's all sorts of videos about all sorts of different job sectors that you can click into, and it's really, really good because there's this basically, if you want to find out about working in any particular job industry, it's really, really good to listen to people who have already got into that industry talking about their job, and it can make you feel good about the kind of job that you're going into. LinkedIn networking, this is a nice feature because basically it pulls in people from different roles or different companies. So if I wanted to type in something like marketing, for example, and search that, it's going to give me people who work in marketing at different companies. And when you click on them, you can get the LinkedIn profile and then maybe request to join that person. So it's quite an easy way of actually breaking it down rather than searching in LinkedIn yourself. So you can do it that way. Or you can just search by particular companies. So if we search by UConn probably has, UConn has a lot of LinkedIn profiles here. So you can search by various things. There's a company directory as well, which is quite useful, and basically lists, potentially hundreds and hundreds of different companies. You can find their careers pages and their websites, and that's kind of a useful tool as well. So that's all about looking for jobs. Assessments. Now, if you go to all assessments, we can see there's lots of different assessments you can do about yourself. And there are things on your temperament and your insight, workplace culture, how motivated you can be at work, your management skills, your resilience at work, stress management can be a good one, your strengths and learning styles can be a good one. So basically when you click on them, they're usually quite short and you can just press take the assessment, and then you get these sort of questions that you work through basically. And then at the end, you get a report that tells you where it thinks you are. You can kind of generally take them with a little bit of a pinch of salt because sometimes, you do these assessments and you don't really fit in where you think you're going to fit. But sometimes it can come up with something that's very valuable and help you to understand yourself, really. It's all about understanding yourself so you understand what jobs you would be good to apply for and understand how you would fit into a workplace culture, basically. Also here on advice, there's also the Employer Video Hub. And this is basically tons and tons of videos, hundreds of videos again, on information about various different things in careers. And there's so many great things you can actually watch here that are so very useful. News articles. We actually have an email come out every Friday at 2 o'clock that has our articles in and lots of articles from this system as well. And the articles can be about all sorts of different things that relate to careers, but also kind of more broad generic skills as well that can be really helpful. And there's so many articles here that are really worthwhile reading and can be very good. With the system, it depends how much time you've actually got to dip in, but there's no excuse for not really knowing about your future and knowing how to develop your career skills, because there's so much in here that you can actually do. And here there's tons of written documents as well. If you like sort of PDFs and written documents that show you how to do all parts of the recruitment process there as well. So it kind of covers a lot of bases. It's really comprehensive. There's a few other things to mention here. In the What We Offer area, you can book one-to-one appointments with careers advisors, and you can pick careers advisors or careers officers as well, independently, separately, if you know who they are, or you quite like to go and see who they are and have a meeting with them. But you can also do application checks with careers advisors. You can do careers advisor and guidance one-to-one appointments online at the moment. You can do CV and cover letter checks. You can do mini appointments with the careers officers. And you can do mock interviews, as we said before. So you basically click on something that you want to do, find out when the availability is, and then basically book through the appointment, and then book the appointment there. And you can put your CV in there or other things that you want the employers, the careers advisors or officers to look at before your appointment. You can book onto events and workshops, which is basically our webinars at the moment, but there are other events that happen throughout the year. You can also ask a question, and you can actually ask a question of the careers advisors. It doesn't have to be a CV one. It can be questions about anything that you want to ask the careers advisors. Also as well, we've got a few other things in here like careers resources and stuff like that. If we're live, I see at the moment, if you're in there, there'll be a little red speech bubble, and you can actually do a live chat with our admin team. So if you've got like a basic question about careers, you can actually, if you're a student and we're live, which we usually are from 9 till 5, you can actually do a live chat with our admin team, which keeps them busy, and they're happy to get lots of chats coming in. And in here, there's a breakdown of kind of key parts of the recruitment process: understanding yourself, searching for jobs, how to apply, and how to do interviews. The last few things are this 5 Steps to Success program is very nice. Because we've got these nice little programs that take you through how to do CVs, self-assessments, job hunting, LinkedIn and networking, interview practice. And if you click on any of these, you get these little programs you can do, and little activities you can pop into and do on your own time, and build up and actually complete them, and then get a little certificate at the end when you finish. So the little bite-sized courses that we've kind of picked out for you to kind of be able to do. Another useful thing is something called the school careers pages. And if you go into here, you can, if you know what school you're in, which you probably will, you can kind of pick the school that you're in. And then this is a special area just for your school. And you can find out who the advisor is for your school. There are suggestions for kind of jobs that you can go into and work in the future. So if you're not really sure what you want to work in yet, if you click on that job sector you want to work into, it suggests the kind of roles, and you can click on them and read more about the roles that are available, which is useful. There's also job sites. We've kind of picked out some kind of job sites that would be useful for people in your particular school, rather than you having to search for them yourselves. And generally there's things like professional bodies that can be quite useful to investigate. And all sorts of things that the advisors have picked out that would help you actually, now you know what job you want to do, how would you go and find those jobs? And then we come on to skills, and there are lots of LinkedIn learning courses that you can get onto here. We've got an account with LinkedIn Learning that every student can use, and there's tens of thousands literally of videos where you can learn lots of skills, and these are transferable skills. So these top things here are the 3 top things that employers were looking for recently. And a lot of them were around how you would deal with solving a challenge or a problem in the workplace, and how you understand yourself. Because if these are the kind of things that employers are looking for at the moment quite readily, and you can do some courses there. But there's also courses on time management and presentation skills and kind of thing, listening, problem solving, the kind of traditional things that employers are looking for as well, if you want to take any of those courses. And if you do those courses, you can get a special badge on your LinkedIn profile and show employers that you're actually training and keeping your skills up to date, which is very nice. There's also a future area where we suggest the kind of organisations you might think about working for from your school. So in this case, we suggested some kind of ones that people working in the business school might be interested in working for. There's also graduate stories as well as case studies of graduates who've gone on to work from your school. And a lot of these are video-based ones. And some of them are. There's a lot of video ones, and you can actually watch this graduate talking about, how they got on after life after UConn. Where did it take them, and some advice for you as well. And coming very soon, potentially within the next couple of months, we're going to have some mentors, a mentoring system where you're going to be able to find mentors in your sector and sort of connect with these mentors and actually ask them questions and get someone to actually support you through various things as well. So that's going to be useful. And resources too at the end. There's lots of PowerPoints that advisors have delivered, talks in schools, and we're also going to be putting our webinar recordings in here. We've not done that yet, I've only just started them, but we're going to be putting them up in here, webinars that relate to the particular schools. So the last bit of here on the dashboard is our programs area, and there's some programs in here that you can do. Preparing for a careers fair, the Employability Skills Award we've talked about before, First Steps for Your Career, which is what we talked, basically 5 steps to success. There's one about resilience, which is useful at the moment, coping with things. And there's also things for international students being successful, and also our mentoring training. If you wanted to be a mentee or be mentored by a mentor, then you could do that and work out to get the best from that experience. There are other things like sharing links down the bottom and favoriting links, but that's probably a reasonably good and comprehensive overview of sort of the career system. And within half an hour as well. I'd put down for an hour because I thought it might take me at least an hour, but half an hour is enough to keep you going. And if you've got any questions about anything relating to the career system, then do type it in, and I'll answer anything. But yeah, hopefully that's given you a good overview of everything that's available in the career system, pretty much everything that's available in the career system, whether you wanted to know about it or not. And do explore, do go on there and kind of use it to get a really good job in the future, because there really is a lot there. You also have access after you've graduated as well. So when you leave UCLan, you've got lifelong support from the Career Service at no cost, and you can come back to the Career Service at any time and get support from the Career Service. That's something to bear in mind. You can do stuff with Career Service online as well if you've gone back to a different part of the country. And also as well, your graduate account will continue for life as well. Oh, good, yes, I was hoping some members of staff would come in, and because it's really, really useful for staff members to show to students what it's actually capable of. Well, I think a lot of people don't know where it is and they don't know what it does. And if academics can really make students aware of that it's here, it would be a really, really useful thing for students to be able to see what's available and make sure to take advantage of that, because they can access Career Service still online and they can access the advisors online, but there's a whole breadth and depth of careers information and knowledge here. Andrew's saying, what are the main areas students currently use CareerEDGE for? Well, as mentioned before, a lot of it's around job search. But of course, there's many other things as well that it's kind of used for. Things like the online programs are quite highly used. Things like the articles that students click on every Friday in their email that they get, that's quite highly used. And really, a lot of it's to do with kind of booking and things like that, but accessing the Career Service. So yeah, great. Well, I'm glad everyone's found it helpful. And